This is Hard Copy for Friday, August 16th, 1991.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Terry Murphy.
And I'm Alan Frio. Good evening. Our top story tonight, Cindy Monkman, a young lady full of life and innocence, until two handsome strangers came to town. Our Raphael Abramovich says a story of deceit and greed.
Cindy Monkman was in the 28th year of her life, educated, intelligent, attractive, friendly, and kind, with a weakness for the charms of foreign men. She was living in Mesa, Arizona, working 2 jobs to support herself, feeling lonely, having just broken off with a man she had been with for years.
No! Another disappointment. You're going to spin again, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. You're not going to stay on it.
Once upon a time, millions had seen her on The Price is Right. She was up against a short, perky blonde and somehow missed the grand prize. Then one night, when she was all too vulnerable, she was introduced to her wildest dream. He was a tall, handsome German tourist whose broken English was about as seductive as anything that had ever been whispered into her ear.
I want you to be my woman.
Why, you are that.
Suddenly the future was full of romantic promise. Cindy's sister Kathy was there that first night.
When I got there, she was already coupled off with Michael, and they'd been drinking, and she was real enamored with him, and he was just all over her, and, you know, it was like they were just kind of in this little, their own little world kind of thing, you know, and he was real good at playing that game and saying all the right things, and like a Casanova. He was putting his hands all over her, and you're the woman of my dreams, and, you know, all that stuff that you hear, and the way he was dressed, and, you know, he's wearing a lot of jewelry and wearing a tuxedo.
It's from Germany, and I don't know, I think they just, he wants me to marry him.
I turned to her and I said, keep your feet on the ground, Cindy. You know, like, remember what this is all about. And she looked at me and she was really stern. She said, don't burst my bubble, Kathy.
I know what I'm doing. Well, it's all in fun.
Both Michael Appelt and his brother Rudy were dripping with jewelry. As the night went on, Cindy kept finding out one unbelievable thing after another.
That's my sister.
So, will you marry me? Will you be my wife?
Well,
These two brothers weren't just handsome and continental, attentive and affectionate. They were rich beyond belief. For weeks, Michael and Rudy had been moving around the Phoenix area, looking at expensive houses, test-driving Jaguars and Ferraris, and asking for the kind of expensive things that seasoned businessmen were more than eager to supply. They were always talking about how much money they had and how that money was on its way.
Is it business? Do you know, what are you guys doing here?
We are bankers. I am investment.
Are you?
Say? For
I like that.
international, is how you
Oh,
say.
really?
Bank.
Is that where all this jewelry came from?
That's where I get the money to buy the jewelry.
It's just beautiful.
Over the next few weeks, Cindy stopped being Cindy. She didn't have any time for her friends. She had no real time even for her sister.
There was a gap when I didn't talk to her for maybe a week, which was unusual.
This surprised Kathy. Cindy and Kathy weren't just sisters, they were the best of friends. They had been that way since they were little kids. Ever since their mother had died from cancer, they had clung to one another for comfort and support. When one of them moved to Arizona, the other one followed.
She finally gets back to me and says, my life has been in a whirlwind. Crazy things have been happening. There's been this outrageous situation that's been happening. I don't even know. I can't even tell you the whole story because I can't get into it right now.
Things had gotten very complicated very fast. Cindy was dating Michael Appelt. Her friend Annette was dating Michael's brother Rudy. The complications had arisen in part because of Cindy's friend Annette, because she had become suspicious that the gold she and Cindy were being shown might only be glitter.
There were always little things that were said to me that I just didn't buy. I wasn't born yesterday.
Early on, Annette began to suspect that Michael and Rudy weren't staying at the Holiday Inn as they claimed.
We always picked them up in front of the Holiday Inn where they said they were staying. Never any mention of a room number, the floor, anything like that. So we got to thinking, I wonder if they're really staying there. And on top of that, there were, I think, 1 or 2 times that Cindy and I had tried to call them at the Holiday Inn, and we were told they weren't registered there.
How do you know this is going to work?
One night, at Annette's insistence, she and Cindy tracked Michael and Rudy to a Motel 6 in Mesa. There Annette began banging on the door, and when it opened, there was a woman with a German accent barring the way.
No, what are you doing here? Annette. Where are they? This is not a good time. Who are you?
After the incident at the Motel 6, Michael and Rudy confronted Annette and Cindy.
He started screaming, why? Why did you do this? Because of you two girls. You're so stupid. Michael and I lost our jobs. You made us lose our jobs.
Michael went on to explain that Annette's and Cindy's snooping had caused him and Rudy to lose their security clearance. And without that security clearance, they could no longer function as international bankers.
Bottom line, we were absolutely convinced that this was true. And the overwhelming feeling was, we're responsible. We were responsible for these guys losing their jobs. We were responsible for whatever happens to them from here on out. We have got to make amends somehow, some way.
Michael and Rudy even had an answer for the presence of the German woman in the room. They had been supporting her financially while her husband was getting an operation in a nearby hospital. Now that, too, had become impossible. Something had to be done, and Cindy and Annette felt that it was up to them to do it.
What about a green card marriage? I mean, we were like brainstorming, like, do you want money? Can my father help you find a job? What if we talk to the consulate? We can marry you for 6 months, you get a green card marriage. We can lend you money to go back to Germany. And it was like bam, 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 bam.
Sometime thereafter, Michael moved in with Cindy, and then one day Cindy and Michael were in Las Vegas and married. Weeks later, during a conversation about something else, Cindy's sister Kathy got the unexpected news.
I think it was also in that talk that she said, I also have something else to tell you that's, super confidential. You can't tell anybody. It's, explain. This was also related to why it has to be a secret. And she said, I think her exact words were, I've married into a lot of money. And she said he's very, very wealthy, comes from a very wealthy family in Germany.
And it was then that Kathy also found out that Michael and Cindy had taken out a $400,000 life insurance policy on each other's lives.
And, I said, well, what's that all about? And she said, well, he's got a lot of money that he's got to invest in this country. And by going through this insurance policy route is a way that you can get money into the States without going conventional ways.
What Cindy didn't know was that she had less than a month left to live. 2 days before Christmas, she disappeared.
They would carry out their plot on a mountain called Superstition, and only a single mistake would alert the police. A phony tape message proved them stupid in the first degree. Back with that in a moment. Cindy Monkman trustingly went with her new husband and his brother to Superstition Mountain. They said they had a surprise, and it was there on Christmas Eve Michael revealed the surprise. Raphael Abramovitz continues the story of two rotten scoundrels.
Cindy Monkman disappeared 2 days before Christmas. Her husband, Michael Appelt, reported her missing.
And he said that he was dressing to go out to dinner, and all of a sudden Cindy got a telephone call. She became quite upset, and she left the house telling him that she had to go take care of something and that he couldn't help. And he said that was the last time that he saw her.
Michael Appelt spoke very little English, and for a while there were serious problems understanding him. But luckily the Mesa Police Department had a burglary detective who was fluent in German, and he was called in on the case.
He was astonished. I mean, he was shocked to find that there was another German speaker in this part of the world, and he asked us in. He was extremely helpful.
Cindy and her sister Kathy had made plans to go home to Illinois for Christmas. And the day she disappeared, Kathy stayed up all night hoping for a call from her.
Somewhere along the way, maybe 3 in the morning, I called one of my friends who happens to be a very intuitive kind of person, and she says, okay, calm down, tell me the whole story. And I felt literally as if I was kicked right in the stomach. I doubled over, and the first thing out of my mouth was the life insurance.
The $400,000 life insurance policy also alarmed homicide detective Mark Jones.
We found out that the insurance policy went into effect on the 23rd of December, a $400,000 policy, and it immediately caused some suspicion on our part.
The following day, Christmas Eve, Cindy's body was discovered near Superstition Mountain, not far from Mesa, Arizona. Detective Jones had Michael Appelt brought to the station so that he could be informed that his wife was dead.
He's taken into an interview room. He's sat down. He's told that we're 99% certain that his wife has been the victim of a homicide. And again, he breaks out in tears, and all of a sudden he slams his hands down on the table, and it just so happens there's a Kleenex box sitting on the table, and instead of pounding hard on this metal table, he hits right on the Kleenex box as hard as he can. What I went from was looking at this guy and having compassion for him because his wife was missing, to saying to myself, is his wife missing and dead now because of something that he might have done? And I focused on him as a suspect from that point on.
But being convinced that someone has committed murder and having the evidence are two separate things. In this case, however, part of the critical evidence was delivered by Michael Appelt himself.
I get a call from Detective Davis, and he tells me about a tape recording that the Appelts were wanting to turn over to him. And this tape recording was on an answering machine.
It would become clear that the brothers had forced a transient to phone in a fake death threat to their answering machine to throw the investigation off track. But what gave them away was the bad English translation of their written German words. The tape that Michael Appelt delivers really makes the cops suspicious.
Hear what I have to talk. I have cut through the throat of your wife, and I stab and more frequently in the stomach and the back with a knife. If I don't get my stuff, your girlfriend is the next, and then your brother. At last, it is you. Get it now. If not, you see what happens. My eyes are everywhere.
So you're listening to the tape, and what do you hear?
I hear what appears to be a black man reading something that was translated from German into English, and a poor translation at that.
It is now that the homicide detectives begin to suspect that Michael and Rudy and their German woman friend are manufacturing evidence to make it look as if Cindy Monkman was killed because of some mysterious drug deal. Detective Jones says the three suspects come down to the station, and when they arrive, he isolates the weak link, the German woman known as Anka Dorn.
I wanted to bring her up to a level of nervousness before I ever started an interview. So after separating her from the two brothers, I set her in an open lobby area, and for approximately an hour and a half, I covertly watched her. She began to fidget a lot. She would even bend over and hang her head between her legs at times, like she was becoming very nervous as to what was taking place. I got an autopsy picture of Cindy Monkman, and I made her look at that, and that was the straw, so to speak, that got her to talking to us.
Anka Dorn eventually testified under immunity that Michael and Rudy had killed Cindy in the desert with a knife, and that Michael had said that the day that Cindy signed the insurance policy was the day she signed her own death certificate.
We, the jury, find defendant named Michael Appelt guilty.
Throughout the trial, Cindy kept appearing in the dreams and nightmares of her sister Kathy and her friend Annette.
In the dream, the trial had started, and Cindy would make this dramatic, entrance into the courtroom and would say, Michael didn't do it.
And one, she had a scar across her neck.
And I would get really angry in the dream. I would say, he did this, he put you through this, he put all of us through this.
And she was saying, well, she wasn't going to testify against Michael. And I said, but look what he did to you. And she said, yeah, but I'm fine now.
Cindy would just be saying, no, he's suffered enough and I'm fine and it's okay now.
And I'll catch myself and I'll say, oh my God, you're dead. And then I'll wake myself up.
By the way, Cindy's husband, Michael, has been sentenced to death.
Such a tragic end for a young woman so obviously full of hope.
Yes, it is.